Hello everyone, this is part 52 of What If Naruto Meets the Nine Tails Early, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Join my membership, the perks are great. It's in the description. In the blink of an eye, the world surrounding Uzumaki Naruto disappeared. One moment, he was standing in the middle of a forested clearing in the land of foxes. The next, he was in what appeared to be a lush and humid jungle with giant plants and mushrooms. Lounging on some of the leaves, were a few lazy toads, bathing in the warm sun that shone down upon them. Whoa, gasped Naruto as he took in the new surroundings. Where are we? Welcome Naruto, to Mount Myoboku, the land of the toads, announced Jiraiya. This place is Mount Myoboku. This place is incredible, exclaimed Naruto. Now come on Naruto-chan, Jiraiya-chan. Mars prepared a special lunch for you too, said Fukasaku as he ushered Naruto and Jiraiya towards his home. As Shima placed the food in front of Naruto, the blonde's stomach suddenly felt queasy as he looked down at the grasshopper soup, crickets on a stick, and the worm noodles. After a most delectable lunch, if you're a toad that is, Naruto and Pa found themselves outside near a fountain with a waterfall of oil pouring into it, and Naruto hunched over as his own stomach assaulted him. Surrounding him were numerous giant toad statues. Now Naruto-chan, I'm going to explain the difference between ninja and sage techniques, spoke Pa. This managed to take Naruto's attention away from his own stomach. While ninja techniques use the energy within you, sage techniques use the energy surrounding you. Surrounding you? Asked Naruto. As you already know, ninja techniques use chakra born of spiritual energy and physical energy. However, sage techniques also add natural energy from outside of you and blend it with your own chakra to form a new, stronger chakra. With this, the strength of your own powers will drastically increase, explained Pa. Those techniques that use your own chakra within you as well as the spiritual energy surrounding you are called sage techniques. Okay, so what exactly is natural energy? Asked Naruto. It's the energy and chakra located in the earth and atmosphere surrounding you, said Pa. In other words, you draw in the chakra from the atmosphere and the earth surrounding you and use it as your own. Watch this. Fukasaku walked over to one of the larger statues and just stood there for a few moments, gathering natural energy before grabbing the bottom of the statue and almost effortlessly lifting it above his head. Why, you picked it up? Exclaimed a surprised Naruto. How? This is the power of sage techniques and natural energy, commented Fukasaku. But, what exactly did you do? Asked Naruto. That's right, you can't quite feel natural energy, so it's impossible for you to use it, yet, said Fukasaku. The how? Asked Naruto. You must become one with nature, stated Fukasaku. And how do I become one with nature? You must said Fukasaku ominously. What? Shouted Naruto, earning a chuckle from Fukasaku and Jiraiya, who had taken a seat atop one of the statues. Okay. Maybe it won't be that extreme, although that is the easiest way to become one with nature, commented Fukasaku. First thing we've got to do is get you accustomed to gathering natural energy. Now, hold out your arm. Fukasaku motioned for Naruto to come over towards the fountain, and as the blonde held out his arm, the elder toad took some oil from the fountain and rubbed it on Naruto's arm. This oil will help attract natural energy. Even though he couldn't quite see it yet, Naruto immediately began taking in natural energy and a chuckle was immediately heard from Jiraiya. What's wrong, Ero-sennin? Asked Naruto as he noticed an obvious croak in his own voice. Gah, what's wrong with my voice? In a panic, Naruto rushed over to the fountain to get a look at his reflection, only to see that he had practically half transformed into a frog. What's happening? Croak. Thwack. Naruto felt a blunt pole him in the back of the head and he realized that he had turned back to normal. What the hell was that? That is the dangerous part about senjutsu training. If you don't take in and meld the chakra with your own correctly, you turn into a petrified frog, explained Fukasaku, pointing to the statues surrounding him, earning a gulp from Naruto. Don't worry Naruto-chan, this staff of mine can force all the natural energy out of you if you start to transform. Now, let's get started on this, shall we? Asked Fukasaku. Some time passed and now Naruto was in a meditative position beneath the waterfall of toad oil. A slight smile lit up Fukasaku's face as orange pigments appeared around Naruto's eyes. Whoa, I can feel the strength welling up inside me, commented Naruto as he leapt from the pond to the top of a nearby statue, his body nearly bursting with energy. While ninja techniques exhaust you the more you use them, you're not using your own chakra. Instead, you're using nature's energy, so rather than becoming more exhausted, you actually recover quicker, explained Fukasaku. Anyways, now that you've learned how to take in natural energy, the next step is to do it without the oil. We'll take care of that tomorrow. Now, I believe Ma's making lunch. Fukasaku chuckled when Naruto suddenly became nauseous. Don't worry, she's making something more enjoyable for you humans. I don't know where she got it, but she found a recipe for a dish called ramen. Ramen! Exclaimed Naruto. The mention of God's food immediately perked Naruto's attention as the naturally energized blonde darted off towards lunch. That Naruto, even after 2 years, he still hasn't changed when it comes to ramen, commented Jiraiya, hopping down from the top of one of the statues. Yes, but he is something, commented Fukasaku. If you've noticed, he doesn't have any toad-like features besides the eye. I believe that's something you still can't get right. Yeah, but the oil was easy. We'll see once he learns to need sage chakra on his own, without the oil, retorted Jiraiya. Damn Gaki. Even I wasn't able to perfectly take in natural energy with the oil. Seeing the jealous look on Jiraiya's face, Fukasaku let out a slight chuckle. You know, you're going to be here for a few months regardless of how well he does. You might as well complete your own sage training. Thwack. Sitting atop one of the frog statues, trying to gather natural energy without the aid of the oil by remaining entirely still, Naruto had begun to transform yet again. As Naruto's face began to widen and become more frog-like, the back of his head had a destined date with Fukasaku's staff, knocking the natural energy out of the blonde and reversing the transformation. Concentrate. You're moving. You must not move, emphasized Fukasaku. Damn, I didn't think it would be this hard without oil. Complained Naruto. Of course it's hard. Did you think it would be easy? Asked Fukasaku. Look, you need to concentrate harder. You're not taking this seriously. Fukasaku suddenly got an idea to help Naruto to concentrate. Come with me. A few minutes later, Naruto was now staring straight up into the sky as multiple jagged spires rose up in front of him. What's this? This looks about the right size, said Fukasaku as he hopped over towards a stack of stone plates. Follow me. Making it look easy, Fukasaku grabbed one of the heavy plates and hopped up one of the spires, setting it atop the needle-like point and balancing on it perfectly. As soon as Naruto perched himself upon his own plate, it immediately began to shake and the blonde Jinchuriki plummeted towards the ground. Before he could react to save himself, Fukasaku had lashed out with his own tongue to catch him before he could become one with nature, permanently. Only once you've stopped moving will you be able to absorb natural energy, exclaimed Fukasaku as he set Naruto down to grab another tablet and continue the training. Orochimaru's lair. Kukaku, Sakabuto, do you have anything notable to mention? Orochimaru-sama, I have produced 3 specimens all successfully displaying dual bloodlines, commented Kabuto. I wish to keep them under surveillance for a few more months to ensure their stability and how well they adapt to the dual bloodlines. Assuming everything goes well, they will be ready by the time you are prepared to transfer. Very well. May I see which specimens you have created, Kabuto? Asked Orochimaru, being handed a few scrolls from Orochimaru. The Snake Sannin examined the scrolls, licking his lips with a satisfied look on his face. Well, Kabuto, you've certainly come up with some interesting combinations, this one in particular, grinned Orochimaru. If I may ask, do you have any plans for her? She has, after all, served her purpose seeing as she can no longer access the vaults in Azushiogakur. Yes, as a matter of fact, there is another sensory-type ninja that I have in mind to S along with her in the prospect of combining their bloodlines into an ultimate sensory ninja, commented Kabuto. Besides, she's currently residing in our southern base and I look forward to seeing what exactly Amiki has concocted for us. Back at Mount Myoboku. He's doing it, thought Fukasaku as Naruto had finally managed to remain still and stabilize himself, thus becoming one with nature and the elder toad sage, watching on as the natural energy swirled into Naruto's own chakra, and melding with it. That's it. He's finally done it. As the natural energy melded with Naruto's chakra, an orange pigment appeared around Naruto's eyes, indicating the ascension to sagehood. That coloring is the sign of a sage. And the fact that he's not gained any frog-like features, does that mean he's surpassed Jiraiya-chan? The elder toad shot a glance towards Jiraiya, who was observing them from the ground. You've got to be kidding me. No warts, no webbed hands. No, he couldn't have. It hasn't even been a month since we got here, thought Jiraiya, not willing to buy the fact that Naruto might have just surpassed him when it came to sage mode. As Naruto opened his eyes to reveal the yellow eyes with horizontal S, that was the mark of the toad sage mode, a small bird began flying around Naruto's head. So Naruto-chan, how does it feel? Asked Fukasaku. Like I'm one with nature, I guess, replied Naruto. At that point, the bird that was flying around Naruto landed on the blonde's shoulder, thus disrupting the delicate balance he had achieved atop the spire and sending the blonde plummeting to the ground below. Sidestepping out of the way, Jiraiya just watched as his student impacted the ground, resulting in a crater with a much intact and functioning blonde. Ow. Hey, huh, said a confused Naruto as he rubbed his shoulder. That really didn't hurt too much. That's sage mode. Your body has been activated in many ways. Now that you've reached sage mode, there's one last thing I want to teach you before your training trip comes to a close, and that's the frog kata, the way sages spar using sage chakra, explained Fukasaku. Damn it, Gaki. How did you do that? Shouted a frustrated Jiraiya. Do what? Asked a confused Naruto. Where are the warts? The webbing? The frog-like featured? Shouted Jiraiya. Wait, am I supposed to be more frog-like? Asked Naruto. Don't worry about him, Naruto-chan. Jiraiya-chan's just jealous that he hasn't perfected sage mode yet. You know, Jiraiya-chan, there's still time while I teach Naruto the frog katas, said Fukasaku, pointing over towards the pile of rocks. As Naruto and Fukasaku walked off towards a more suitable training area, Jiraiya was left thinking. Damn Gaki. I can't believe he's actually obtained a perfect sage transformation, and in this short amount of time. But you know, I can't help but be proud of him. He's come a long way in these past few years. Which then raises the question, what the hell happened? What happened with Naruto before I found him at the hot springs? He should have been like his father, a prodigy. But he was neglected. I'm going to have a long talk with Tsunadheim to see what she's uncovered. If he had been given even the slightest attention, then who knows where he would be right now. Sighing, Jiraiya walked over towards the pile of stone plates and grabbed one of them. Pa's right. It is about time I finish my own sage training. Besides, Naruto may be strong, but he's still going to need all the help he can get, and there's no way I'm going to let him face it all alone. Damn chief, this stuff is strong, commented Naruto. He didn't know how, but he had somehow found himself in the middle of a poker night with Gamabunta, Gamakichi, and a few of the other toads. To celebrate Naruto's successful completion of sage training, Bunta had decided to break out the good stuff, Mount Myoboku Fire Sake. Yes, that was the good stuff, probably the strongest sake in the world. Bunta, who really didn't have that much considering he is a building-sized toad, was already on the tipsy side. Kurama was having a good old time trying to break down the alcohol, and despite the help, even Naruto was feeling the effects of it. However, he wasn't too far gone that he couldn't think clearly. If the blonde remembered correctly, he was going to be in some big trouble upon arriving home. Flashback. It was the night before Naruto was due to leave with Jiraiya before starting his 2-year-long training trip with the Toad Sage. But still, Naruto couldn't help but get one more prank set up. After all, there was no way he was going to let them forget about him, Konoha's #1 prankster, while he was away. Currently, Naruto was atop the Hokage monument placing an array of ceiling tags over the faces of the former Hokages. There we go. Now every morning the village will wake up to something different, thought Naruto as he put the finishing touches on the ceiling matrix that now encompassed the Hokage monument. Yes, he had rigged those seals to paint the Hokage monument in some random fashion every morning at sunrise. With the exception of the first day, those seals were meant to go off when he was a far enough distance from Konoha that he would be able to safely escape if Tsunade had gone berserk for his little prank. Overlooking Konoha from a safe distance, Naruto observed as his pranking seals exploded, covering the Hokage monument in a cloud of paint. Even Jiraiya saw this and was staring at the monument curiously, wondering what exactly his blonde student had done. And when the paint cleared, he couldn't help but laugh and feel proud of his student. On the cliff face just beneath the four heads was an opened copy of Jiraiya's Ika Ika book with three of the Hokages looking down at it and a variety of perverted expressions on their face. The Shodaime had a slight blush on his face and was giggling like Kakashi would, if anyone could figure out what exactly was underneath that mask of his. That reminds me. Team spending a few years with Kakashi-sensei. Surely he's gotta know what's under that mask. The Nadaime had wide eyes that were staring down at the book along with a slight trickle of B coming out of his nose. The old man's was similar to when Naruto had hit him with his S-jutsu on the night of the Mizuki incident with a massive blush on his face and two strong gushes of B. Lastly was his dad, the Yondaime. Unlike the others, Minato wasn't looking at the book. Rather, he was examining his predecessors and had a look that said, "Am I seriously associated with these perverts?" However, to those who looked close enough, they could see slight hint of fear in his eyes that told the entire truth of the matter. Don't look down, if you do, Kushina will castrate you. Whatever you do, don't look down. As Jiraiya and Naruto admired the blonde prankster's work, a yell was heard from the direction of Konoha that sent chills down the spines of both master and apprentice. Naruto. Oh crap. Run Naruto. We can't let Tsunade catch us. Shouted Jiraiya as the two turned tail and ran as fast as they could before Tsunade personally welcomed them back to Konoha, 2 years early and wrapped in a full body cast. Still, much to Jiraiya's delight, Naruto's little prank had turned out to be a good form of advertisement and the perverted writer found that his sales had increased significantly during the following months. End flashback. Yeah, I need to do something or Bakunin's going to K me, thought Naruto. And if everything worked right there, I figure it would have taken him a few weeks to remove those seals without either me or Ero Sennin in the village. Yeah, I'm going to need something to apologize to Bakunin with. And this sake might actually do the trick if I can get a few bottles out of Chief. Hey Chief, how about a little wager? Next hand, neither of us look at it and if I win how about you give me a bottle of this sake, offered Naruto. Wahahaha. That's a good one kid. Like I'd ever wager a bottle of my special stash. Laughed the giant toad. However, it was clear that Bunter was near drunk, at the very least. Okay fine, you've got a wager. But when I win, you've got to get that girl of yours to bake me a toad-sized serving of those sweets. Hinata-chan's sweets. Oh wow, there really are going to be some high stakes on this hand, thought Naruto. Apparently, Bunter had gotten a taste of Hinata's baking whenever Gamakichi returned home from that one time where he had met Hinata when Hinata was signing her own summoning contract. And yes, Naruto knew just how delicious those sweets of Hinata's were. They were like gold. Edible, sweet, and delectable gold. Fine, let's go, Tobayo. Alright, bring it you brat. Let's see what you've got. Exclaimed Gamabunter, flipping over his cards to reveal that he had somehow managed to pull off a straight from the very beginning. Still, Naruto's luck held for him and he flipped over 5 giant that he had to have shadow clones hold for him, to reveal a flush. Looks like I win Chief. Grinned Naruto. Ha, you think you're so good you brat. Double or nothing on this hand or you ain't getting squat. Grumbled the drunken toad. By this point in time, most of the other toads were either too drunk to realize what exactly was going on or they had already passed out. 3 hands of the same deal later, Gamabunter had also passed out as Naruto stumbled his way back to where he was staying, thankful that Kurama had agreed to sober him up tonight. He was now carrying a scroll that had 8 bottles worth of the famed Mount Myoboku fire sake in it. Thankfully, 8 bottles were nothing for Bunter and the Toad boss would most likely not even realize that much sake was gone and this gave him plenty of get out of jail free cards with Tsunade and even a bottle or 2 for himself. Damn Kit, I know you're not the biggest sake connoisseur out there, but you have to admit that was some pretty good stuff, commented Kurama as Naruto lied down on his mat in the guest house for him and Jiraiya. Just make sure to save some of those for yourself. I doubt you're getting any more from that overgrown toad. I'm certain it'll only take 1 bottle of that stuff to get you out of the trouble you're going to be in when you get home. Keep an extra bottle or 2 set aside just in case you get in trouble with the old bat again, bring one to a party with all your friends, hey, they won't know what hit 'em. And save the remaining few bottles for us, I mean yourself. Yeah, shrugged Naruto. Anyways, that's not what I wanted to talk to you about. It's regarding this sage training you're undergoing, said Kurama. Huh, what about it? I've been thinking. This sage chakra you get when you're in sage mode is pretty powerful stuff, and the fact that you now can draw it in from the atmosphere and earth itself means there is virtually an unlimited supply of it. The only limitations to it are how much you can hold at one time and how fast you can absorb it. If I'm correct, then I believe you can get a bit more time out of jutsus like your regression seal, explained Kurama. Honestly, I've been wondering that as well. How much time do you think? We were just barely able to get 12 years before, said Naruto. Remember, it's not always the same amount of time with every seal. Some seals can be regressed further while others can't be regressed as far. However, just using the caged bird seal as a comparison, I would think that between the sage chakra and the increased amount of my chakra you can access as a result of our trainings, I would think that you can get at least another 2 years out of it. That much? Wow. Considering the amount of chakra those later years took, that's a lot, commented Naruto. But you know, there's still gotta be a way to get the caged bird seal off without using the regression seal. I know I promised to get Neji's seal off and I did, but I can't help but think that there's gotta be some way to remove the seal from others. I mean, I can't go around and regressing the caged bird seal off of every Hyuga. Some have been on too long and the Hyuga clan has at least 100 members. That would just be crazy. Sadly, I agree. Well, get some rest. It sounds like your training comes to an end tomorrow, and once you get back to Konoha, then the real fun begins, laughed Kurama. I can't wait to see the looks on everyone's faces when they see you go full Biju mode the first time. Yeah, but you know I can only do that when it's only my friends that I trust or as a last resort. I don't want the entire village thinking I've been possessed, and they go back to trying to kill me. I've already gotten respect from some and the rest of the village doesn't seem to care that much anymore. It's only a matter of time now before they really see who I am, and no offense, but I don't want them to see me as you, replied Naruto. As they lowered in the sky, Jiraiya sat atop one of the large spires with a slab underneath him. In all honesty, he had not intended to train some more in the sage arts, but with the revelation that Naruto could actually achieve a perfect sage mode, Jiraiya was soon coaxed into completing his own sage training. After 3 weeks of training, Jiraiya found that the only thing that remained were the large red pigments that covered the side of his face. The warts, webbing, and toad-like features were gone. Jiraiya had finally managed to perfect his own sage mode after so many years of procrastinating. Jumping down from the spire, the earth buckled underneath Jiraiya as he landed. I see you've finally done it, Jiraiya-chan, commented Fukasaku. I can definitely feel the difference between the imperfect and perfect sage modes, commented Jiraiya, feeling the purer sage chakra in his system. Now perhaps you won't have to drag Ma away whenever she's cooking dinner, replied Fukasaku, earning a chuckle from Jiraiya. I'll be honest, I hadn't planned on completing the sage training, but the Gaki forced my hand, commented Jiraiya. He really is something, said Fukasaku. It took him less than a month to achieve what took you years of training to do. Hey, he's full of surprises. It took Minato 3 years to develop his Rasengan, it took me 3 months to master it, and it only took Naruto 3 weeks. And not only has he mastered the jutsu, but he's also completed it, said Jiraiya. Yes, and he seems to have exceptional control over the Kyuubi's chakra, added Fukasaku. He's already Jonin level, A rank I would say. Add in Sage mode and that might push him to low S rank. Now, throw the Kyuubi's power into the mix and even I don't know if I'd be able to beat him. I've done everything I can to help him out to this point. There's not much more I can do that will actually benefit. The best thing now, is for us to return home and let Naruto experience his new powers and truly find out where he stands and what works best for him, analyzed Jiraiya. Now this group that's after him, or rather the Kyuubi, Akatsuki. They've got no idea what's about to hit them, grinned Jiraiya. And it's not just Naruto. That boy's got a unique ability. He inspires those around him to do the best and strive to become better. Naruto's not the only one who's been hard at work. From what I've been reading from Tsunde's communications, all of his friends have been working their off to get better. Even his own teammates are behind him all the way. Sakura's blossoming as an excellent medic under Tsunadheim, and while I haven't heard much regarding Kakashi and Sasuke, Kakashi is the ideal teacher for Sasuke, and if I know how Naruto and Sasuke operate, there's no way Sasuke's going to sit by as Naruto passes him up. Sasuke, wasn't he the one you were afraid would turn out like your former teammate? Asked Fukasaku. Yeah, but as I said, Naruto's got a special power. If it wasn't for Naruto, then I feel Sasuke would have left in some obscured search for power, tossing the village aside like Orochimaru did. However, Naruto managed to get him to open up and to accept those who are actually trying to help him. Perhaps this generation can do it. Perhaps they will be able to do what mine could not. Well, Naruto, I'm glad to say that I've taught you everything I could and more, said Jiraiya as he stood opposite his student in a clearing at Mount Myoboku, Ma, Pa, and all the other toads that Naruto had befriended over the years surrounding them. As of now, your training with me is complete. Then dropping the teacher facade and putting on the godfatherly one, Jiraiya continued. I really am proud of how far you've come, and I'm sure they would be too if they could be here. Jiraiya, thank you, said Naruto, actually calling Jiraiya by his real name for one of the first times as a joyful tear came to his eyes. Don't worry about it, Naruto, said Jiraiya as he pulled out a box from his pack. I know it's not that much, but I had this made as a present for you before we left Ogasarawa. As Naruto took the present and opened it, his face lit up in glee as he pulled a long red coat out of the box. Looking closer, the coat had a black flame pattern along the base. And while it wasn't extravagant, on the back of the coat was a black outline of the Uzumaki spiral. Whoa, this is awesome, exclaimed Naruto as he put the coat on. Hey, glad you like it, said Jiraiya. You know, perhaps it's the coat, but you honestly are starting to look more like him. Jiraiya was right. Over the past years, Naruto had grown, not just in skill and strength, but in physical appearance as well. Naruto was beginning to look more like his father. His hair had grown longer and spikier. While they weren't as long as his father's yet, his bang now hung over his headband so that some of the longest spikes reached the base of his headband. Even his eyes were starting to resemble his father's. Foregoing having his sword sealed away in his gloves, Arashi was now strapped to his left side by a belt that he had picked up with his clothes. Something about having a sword at his side just felt right. Hanging around the blonde's end was a gem-sized, miniature scroll. That scroll was something that he kept close to him as it contained everything about his remaining family. Yes, that scroll was the Uzumaki family tree that he had picked up in Azushiogakur. He had realized that scroll had a special jutsu on it that allowed it to shrink to about the size of the crystal Tsunade wore around her N. At the Land of Iron, he had been able to add 6 more names to that scroll, forming a separate branch from the branch in the clan that he descended from. These 6 names were Uzumaki Keirai, her and Mifune's children Hiroto and Keiko, Hiroto's son Hiro, Keiko's son Kenichi, and Keiko's daughter Kyoko. While they weren't directly related to the branch that Naruto had descended from, they were still family, and that was one goal he had set his mind to ever since stumbling upon the Uzumakis of the Land of Iron, to locate all the remaining Uzumakis, to find his family. Thinking on that, there was one thing that slightly disturbed him. He had met another Uzumaki before. It was only brief, but he recalled that girl from Azu that was with the Sound when he and Jiraiya were there. There were only 2 ways that she would be there. Either she was allied with Orochimaru, or she was his prisoner and forced to go with the Sound. However, that didn't change anything. She was with Orochimaru, and there was no way in hell Naruto was going to let any member of his family suffer in Orochimaru's clutches. He would save his family. Seeing as Naruto's mind was on his family, Ero Sennin, there's one last place I want to stop before going home. Looking down upon a valley near the northeastern coast of the Land of Fire, it was there. Just as Mifune had described it, Naruto gazed down upon the marvel that had left a lasting mark on the landscape, as evidence of what had once occurred. Looking down from the cliff, etched into the very ground itself, was a giant Uzumaki spiral. The same spiral that the warriors of the Uzumaki clan had created when they unleashed their final jutsu upon the invading hordes during the beginning of the Second Shinobi War. It truly was as magnificent as Mifune had described it. The lines of the spiral were actually the size of canyons, and while much of that land had been reclaimed by nature, the rifts in the earth still stood out to any onlooker who gazed upon the grave marker of the legendary warriors of Uzushiogakure. Somehow, Naruto felt himself drawn towards the middle of the spiral, and after navigating his way to the center, located on the very spot where his great-great-grandfather last stood, was an engraved stone shrine. Walking over to it and wiping away the dust and overgrowth, Naruto was able to make out what the engravings said. Here marks the site where the world witnessed the valiant efforts of the noble warriors of Uzushiogakure. Here marks the site where brothers stood side by side, defending the values that they strive to live up to their entire lives. May this everlasting mark serve as a reminder that no matter how hard one may try, no matter how desperate their efforts, the whirlpool will never be silenced. It lives on, within myself and within the children of the spiral. You are. You are. I wonder who that could be, thought Naruto. The way it was written most likely meant that the you was for Uzumaki, but as Naruto looked at the tree, there was no living Uzumakis that had a name beginning with the letter R. If that was the case, then he would find this R. Uzumaki, and just as the inscription said, the whirlpool would return. Konoha. It was early afternoon, and Team 8 had just finished up with a rather stressful mission that proved to be frustrating at the very best. They had been assigned to track down a Rouge ninja who had been harassing a nearby town and capture him. While the ninja really wasn't too much of a match for them and the tracking proved to be rather easy, the law enforcement of the client town was what nearly made their heads explode. For hours, the two officials debated over whether or not that was the right guy due to a birthmark that one argued was a few millimeters too high. It was a completely pointless argument, and even Hinata of all people had grown slightly irritated. Arriving back at her home, Hyuga Hinata wanted nothing more to do than lay down and take a nap. Her eyes drifted from the ceiling over to her bedside table, where she had a framed picture of her and Naruto on the night where they had first become a couple and had their first K, the same night where Jiraiya had caught him off guard with the camera. It's been over 2 years now. Naruto-kun should be coming home just about any time now, thought Hinata. I wonder what he's like. I wonder how much he's changed. I wonder if he still likes me. I hope he likes how I look. The years honestly could not have been much kinder to the young Hyuga as she developed from a girl into a young woman. She had grown over the years, in more than just one way. In general aspects, Hinata had gained quite a few inches, about 162 centimeters, 5 feet 3, a good height for a young woman her age. Her body had also begun to take on a more womanly figure. While she no longer wore that baggy beige jacket from a few years ago, she found it hard to part with wearing a jacket and had replaced her bulky old jacket with a lavender and white hooded jacket. Unlike her old jacket, this one did manage to show off some of her newly developed curves, if even just a little. As the years went on, the young Hyuga began to take on a look that more closely resembled her mother. A soft and delicate beauty Hinata had become, letting her midnight blue hair grow down to her mid-back, just below the shoulder blades. To anyone first gazing upon her, Hinata was probably the last person you'd suspect as being a shinobi, but that was a mistake made by many opponents. The shy and timid girl who had no self-confidence was long gone, that shell peeled away years ago by a certain blonde. While she still remained a rather quiet, serene, and gentle soul, her skills over the years had allowed her to blossom into a skilled kunoichi with a level of grace that hadn't been seen since her mother's time. Turning her attention forward, she eyed the hat of the Azukage that Naruto had left in her possession, to care for it and hold onto it as a promise that he'd return to her when he was done with his training. Naruto-kun must be training hard. I hope he comes back soon. Finally, Hinata rolled her head to the side so that she was looking out of the window and peering down into the central courtyard. She watched as her father approached a cloaked figure waiting at the entrance. From the looks of things, it was another suitor, coming to ask for an opportunity to court her, and her father going to reject his attempt. Why did those elders have to start spreading those rumors? I'm not interested in a suitor. I only want Naruto-kun. Seeing as Hinata was nearing official marrying age, 16 under normal circumstances, and the clan elders could no longer have her sealed despite the fact that she was no longer the heir to her family and the clan, they figured they'd use her for something else. As it was now, they were trying to marry her away to some nobleman, which would increase the overall power, wealth, and influence of the clan. However, they did not have the authority or power to marry away Hinata. One law of the village created back during the Shodai's time was to allow for freedom of marriage. This effectively meant that people were allowed to marry who they wanted, and while arranged marriages were still used in the village, both parties had agreed to them and neither side was forced into a betrothal. Still, that did not stop the elders from saying that Hinata was seeking suitors to wed, creating a good deal of frustration for the Hyuga beauty and her father. As it stood, Hiashi had dealt with over 24 suitors in the 2 months since the elders began with their latest scheme. All of them had been turned away, some peacefully, and some getting thrown out on their sorry, Yukin day. Looking down upon the courtyard, Hinata activated her Byakugan, looking to see who was beneath the cloak. However, the first thing that caught her eye was the color of the chakra, blue, but with a slight tint of red. That's, please let it be, she begged, hoping her own eyes weren't lying as she raced out of her room and towards the courtyard. State why you have come, spoke Hiashi as he approached the cloaked individual. He was already not in a happy mood as this was the second suitor of the day, and said, suitor, had interrupted a very productive training session with Neji. From what Hiashi could tell, the stranger stood at a height of 173 centimeters, 5 feet 7, and the tone of his voice placed him around the age of mid-teens. Yep, most likely the son of some nobleman come to seek Hinata's hand. I have come to see Hinata-chan, replied the stranger. I am sorry, but my daughter is not seeking a suitor. Her heart already belongs to someone and there is only one man who I will allow my daughter to see, spoke Hiashi as he activated his own Byakugan. I ask that you please leave or I will be forced to make you. I don't know about these suitors, but I assure you that Hinata-chan's heart is mine as mine is hers, replied the cloaked man as he reached up to remove the hood that was shielding his face from view. Hiashi prepared to learn the Adini of his next victim, but could only help but gasp as a ghost of his past stood before him. Me Minato. Why did uncle just call him Minato? The only Minato I know of is the Yondaime Hokage, and that most certainly is new, gasped Neji. It can't be. Is he? It was at that point that Neji realized just how right he had been in the first match of his first Chunin exams, when he stated to a certain blonde that those who become Hokage were born into that destiny. Naruto, called out a sweet voice. Naruto's attention turned from the now gaping Hiashi to the pale beauty standing before him, and now there were 2 people in the Hyuga courtyard struggling to retain their composure, along with one fox making catcalls and whistles inside his vessel's mind. Hinata-chan, stuttered Naruto. Sure, Hinata had been cute and beautiful before, but now, that's Hinata-chan. That angel can't be Hinata-chan. Since when did she get so hot? As Naruto was examining the hot beauty before him, his eyes were instinctively drawn towards a certain area of the female anatomy. Oh yeah, those are at least D's. No. Stop it. No perverted thoughts. Naruto mentally beat himself until he heard the sweet voice of his angel once again. Naruto-kun, called out Hinata, breaking Naruto for his stupor. Hinata-chan, said Naruto as he slowly began walking towards her, and she did the same, taking a few steps forward before they met in the middle. Embracing each other, their lips met as the couple shared their first K with each other for the first time in years. Uzumaki Naruto was finally home. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.